Marquez shooting 2 Placer County Sheriff's deputies a short time later, one of them dying from his wounds. Marquez taken into custody in Placer County Friday afternoon.
4 students still in the hospital after that deadly school shooting in the Seattle area. Doctors at Harborview Medical Center in Seattle say the 2 boys in intensive care. Grief counselors are on hand. This is news on the Blaze Radio Network.
Everyone is making the switch to the Blaze to make it their source for the truth. Why not make it your source for the truth? Make theblaze.com your homepage for news that the other outlets won't even touch. Subscribe to The Blaze TV at theblaze.com/TV or on Dish Network and get access to original programming like For the Record, the show that exposes what's really going on that the government doesn't want you to know. And Real News, the daily conversation on the topics of the day that matter most. Check out the Blaze Radio Network at theblaze.com/radio with original shows like Buck Sexton, The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson, Pat and Stu, and Jay Severin. Or if you need something to hold in your hands, subscribe to the Blaze magazine. So basically, anywhere you need to go, you can take the truth with you by taking the Blaze with you. This is the Blaze. Truth lives here. So just to recap, anywhere you need to go, you can take the truth with you by taking the Blaze with you. Find out all the ways at theblaze.com.
We're learning more from social media about that suspected shooter at a school north of Seattle, killing 1 classmate, leaving 4 others injured. The Blaze Radio's Chris Vermillions with more.
A series of tweets from Jalen Freiberg throughout the days leading up to the shooting reveal relationship troubles and anger at a person he describes as no longer my brother. Freiberg saying in the same tweet, "Dude, she tells me everything." I'm Chris Vermillion, The Blaze News.
To the latest now on Ebola, there continue to be more and more cases worldwide. The World Health Organization saying the number of confirmed cases of the disease now over 10,000, with just over 4,900 deaths. The president, in his weekly radio address, he talks about the most recent diagnosis in New York City, saying New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio would have all the support needed from the federal government. The chief of the New York Police Department calling an attack on a group of police officers an act of terrorism. We get details from the Blaze Radio's Greg Moore.
We would describe him as a self-radicalized. We would describe him as inspired. We would feel at this time that he was self-directed.
New York City Police Commissioner Bill Bratton calling the hatchet attack on a pair of police officers in Queens an act of terrorism. Rookie officer Kenneth Healy is fighting for his life after being struck in the head. Another officer wounded in the arm. The assailant, Zale Thompson, being shot by other officers on the scene. Thompson being described as a radicalized Muslim whose Facebook page is filled with anti-American rhetoric. Thompson attacking 4 officers as they posed for a photograph.
There are more airstrikes happening against ISIS terrorists in Iraq. The U.S. Central Command saying warplanes carrying out 22 strikes on targets since yesterday. They've been near a key dam in Mosul and other locations, including an oil refinery held by terrorists in northern Iraq. I'm John DeMaster with news on the Blaze Radio Network. Truth lives here.
Dallas at 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. And thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And on the heels of a cosmic interview this week on Wednesday with Dr. Bill Cosby, follow up today with another legend in music, Booker T. Jones, who's going to be performing at a music festival up in Scottsdale today with Mindy A Bear. Booker T. Jones, known better as Booker T and the MGs. This is our second interview and pretty poignant. We talked a lot in the first about love and leadership, and we continued on in that discussion last week in a pre-recorded interview. So settle in, take a listen, and we'll come back with Dawn Renee as well, a Raku ceramic artist. Hang in there on the Jake Feinberg Show, Power Talk 1210, Booker T. Jones, now.
Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. In a day and age when younger cats, including myself, feel a need to change the subject, it has created a musical feel of anxiety and overreaching. The need to show off one's chops at the expense of real, authentic music seems to have pervaded the universal language of communication. My guest today continues to play music that doesn't allow for attention deficit disorder. He grooves you with sticky stuff that if you don't get the first time, he'll do it again and again and again. It's not how many notes you play, but rather sequencing ideas that are understandable to audiences who dig improvisational music. My guest pours mathematics and love into his music, being able to leave his physical body when creating. Growing up, music was a communal event, a gathering of the vibes that meant more than pacification or having some manufactured beats forced into your ears. He is undeterred by distractions, of which there are many, by practicing his instrument and connecting with audiences in the most soulful way. He's coming back to the great state of Arizona to perform in Scottsdale. Booker T. Jones, great to have you back on the Jake Feinberg Show.
Oh, thank you, Jake. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, I listened back to our first interview. I would love you to talk about some of the sanctified churches that you might have attended. If the pastors themselves actually played guitars. I'm very fascinated with some of these sanctified churches that really brought the blues into the music, and whether you had a chance in Mississippi or even Memphis to go to these places.
Well, the denominations, Jake, back then in Memphis and in the South, my family came from Holly Springs, Mississippi. The denominations were very much segregated. I actually never set foot inside a Pentecostal church. I would stand outside and listen to the music because I was born and raised a Methodist. Methodists were more conservative music. There was classical music at the beginning, and the more gospel music didn't happen until later in the ceremony. So, you just didn't switch denominations back then. It just wasn't done.
Right.
It just wasn't done. So, but my grammar school was across the street from a Pentecostal church. And, of course, there were Pentecostal churches down on Hill Street that I could listen to. My mom and Dad didn't actually voice an opinion about those churches to me. They were very much involved in their own music. My mom played Chopin, Debussy, she played gospel music at home, and my dad sang. And those are the ways that services started as the Methodist churches. Of course, the music was a lot more relaxed later on in the ceremony, but that was the way that they were traditional rhythmal services. So they never commented on it, and when I did that type of thing, it was without their knowledge. I didn't tell them that I hung out around Beale Street or those places.
Can you talk about the effect that it had on you as a young boy, though, to see something, to see kind of, I don't know what the right word is, just pastors that were unafraid and doing things that were non-traditional and not really conservative? How did it affect you as a musician?
Well, for me, as a boy, it actually added balance to my life because I love so many different types of music, and I had access to the blues on the radio, the blues on Beale Street, classical at home, gospel around the neighborhood, and of course jazz. Once I got to about 8 or 9, and I was able to go to Satellite Records and listen to jazz there, and in the clubs. So it actually created balance for me. Now that I look back, and that was good for me because there were a lot of different. I really loved your astute introduction to this interview, and where you mentioned, not trying to impress audiences with technique and that type of thing, and actually trying to communicate with music. And so I think having that type of upbringing and listening to a lot of different viewpoints on music helps to create balance for me.
Yeah, it's beautifully said because I bring it up because I've been my dad had Universal Language in his collection, which is a interesting album to say the least. And when I listen to it, it's so awesome, Booker, because you play. Some people would say it's too I think in today's world, with music, bass players or whatever, they have to play all these notes and everything's got to be flying around, and it almost like because we're so afraid we're going to lose people's interest or attention spans, or somehow that anxiety has gotten in the way. And when you listen to most of the tracks, Last Tango in Memphis and Reincarnation, all these awesome tunes. You're just grooving 8 minutes, and you're only playing. It's not that complex, and it grooves so hard. And that's what I meant with Jimmy Smith too. I mean, guys that used to go see Jimmy Smith, he'd play a lick, and if you didn't get it, he'd play it again, and if you still didn't get it, he'd play it again. And I think you're the same way. I mean, not in an obnoxious way, but just to say, can you marinate on this without getting bored? I'd love you to talk. I just think it's so important to talk to younger cats about not, overcomplicating the music will hurt it.
Well, that's a great compliment. I appreciate it. And Jimmy, of course, as you can tell, was my mentor. And, the name of the album is Universal Language. And, I guess to try to remember that music is a language, and it's not necessarily show business all the time. It's about communicating a thought. And, the thing that makes, a lot of times I think we lose sight of what beauty really is. Consists of. It's not always intricate. Sometimes it's just very simple. And maybe that's the point that we miss, or that musicians miss, or young musicians miss, is that is to dwell and get the beauty and meaning out of simplicity, and understand it and allow it to be, and so then move on to the intricate. I guess it's the philosophy that we're talking about.
When I look at the inner sleeve of Universal Language, there it is, Booker T and the MGs. Your name is Booker T, and the MGs, but yet the biggest face is Steve Cropper's face, and then it's Booker T's. Why is that? Not to take anything away from the musical chops of Cropper, but if Booker T is the lead, why isn't your face the biggest? You know what I'm trying to say? I mean, that didn't make any sense to me.
I do understand very much what you're trying to say, and you just hit on the essence of and the history of the Satellite and Stax Records. You just hit on the I'll call it an Achilles heel. You hit it just now.
What I was unaware of is that in your most recent the most recent album that you did, you worked with Bill Withers' daughter, I believe.
Yeah, Corey.
But I guess I wasn't even aware that you produced Bill's "Ain't No Sunshine Grandma's Hands" on those early Bill Withers records, and I wanted to know about that. Because I thought that was on the Sussex. I'm just trying to figure out where you were. You were out in L.A. Can you paint the picture for me? Because Bill, yeah go ahead.
I had just left Stax. I had just left. It was late 60s, and I had just left Stax, and the fellow that sold Stax he sold Stax to Gulf and Western Industries, was trying to start a label of his own. His name was Clarence Avath, and he had discovered this singer building airplane toilets in Inglewood, and he was, of course, looking for a producer, so he called me and wanted me to listen to the guy. The guy had a ranch out in Malibu, and the guy came out with his overalls and Rogans and a big notebook full of songs, and it was Bill Withers. Ain't no sunshine for me. Sang Ain't No Sunshine for me in my living room. But I had just moved to California, so I did call, that's when I called Al Jackson to come out to California, and they came out, and I got Nick Stevens Stills to help me. And we went right in and started recording.
Wow, how did you just hit the ground running when you came out to L.A.? I mean, no time flat. You're hooked up with Bill Withers. That's incredible. How you reacted, well, being with Otis Redding, and when you found out that he died, how did that impact you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, looking back, I think I'm a little more objective about it all. Otis was obviously a catalyst for me musically. When he came in with his ideas, him and Al Jackson and the way they wanted to do songs, they were, he in particular was the kind of person that inspired me to get musical ideas and arrangement ideas and, just being generally creative. And so we became friends over that, that was nice. Just quiet friends, not a lot of discussion about what was going on. So those times were nice in the studio, the way we played the songs and enjoyed all that. And then, of course, the death, was probably the first of my realizations that life can just, blindside you.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I didn't realize that could happen, but it did, and so it's just a lesson in a way to just how to go on, how to continue, because you assume that this relationship is going to go on for years.
That's right. I know. I mean, I feel you in my own life, man. It's just like these. I don't know if it's blindsiding or unexpected, and then you just have you have to figure out to dust yourself off. How did he inspire you in your what were some of the things that inspired you about him? What made him a great leader?
Just the enthusiasm and you understood that he was sort of unwilling to accept any less than the best it could be. Just that essence just came through. This is going to be as good as it can be. And the togetherness. That's what a leader does.
That's what a leader does.
He puts himself on the same level as everybody else.
What other projects do you have going on right now, creatively, that you're working on?
Yeah, I am. Of course, I just finished the Sound the Alarm album, and right now I'm trying to conceive of my next project, the next musical project, and figure out exactly what I'm going to be doing in the industry at this point. And of course, I'm working on a book about my life and my musical endeavors. I'm pretty busy.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, if these interviews, I can absolutely send them along, and hopefully, you can bring some memories back for you.
Oh yeah.
I have to ask you. I know these cats. I looked it up this morning. I know they were about 8 years older than you, but I'm going to list off a couple cats and see if you ever linked up with them. Charles Lloyd, George Coleman, Harold Mayburn. Those guys were all from Memphis, and they were born about 9 years before you. But I just was wondering if you had ever, did you ever connect with Charles Lloyd? Or because Memphis was just bubbling at that time. and
okay.
Did you know those cats?
I'll give you a little background. Now, all the guys that I grew up in Memphis were about 4 or 5 years older than me. Al Jackson and Gene Bowlegs, Willie Mitchell, Tuff Green. They all looked up to Charles Lloyd. And if you go on my Twitter page, you can see a photo of me and Charles at the last couple of weeks ago at the Monterey Jazz Festival.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. And there's a photo. I posted the photo. I don't post photos very much. But I posted this one because Charles came backstage to say hello. And Charles went through a very difficult time after he left Memphis. And we were both living in Malibu for years. And he avoided me because he was having trouble. And he didn't want me to see him like that. So now he's cool. He's very cool. And so the photo says it all.
And it's on your Twitter page, because I will absolutely boost that thing. What's interesting is a drummer. Well, I was going to ask you about Jim Keltner, but Keltner used to sit in the front row of these dive bars when Lloyd was out there with Bobby Hutcherson, and Lloyd dubbed him and this guy Jack Folks the modern jazz proteges. And do you guys think? I would just love for you guys to. I love all those Memphis cats. I mean, Mayburn, Coleman, those guys. Booker, I mean, you guys can burn, man. I just would. You think maybe the next musical venture should be you and Charles Lloyd doing an album.
I saw Harold backstage, and it was great to see both of them. And Charles, we exchanged phone numbers because it had been so long. And you have something there, Jake. You really do. You really do. And speaking of Jim Kilmer, he's another old friend of mine. That we made a lot of music together. We played on a lot of different types of music together with Neil Young and just a lot of different stuff. He's a good friend.